Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sharing some of the instructions you should be aware of. Every day, assessment evaluation will happen through MCQs that will be posted in Google Classroom at 4 p.m. and the logout time will be 7 p.m. Kindly join in the Google Classroom if you haven't joined yet. Code is displayed in the chat box for your kind reference. Attendance is automated and it will be recorded in the ATAL website every day. Certificate will be generated only for the participants who complete the assessments and have 80% attendance. Thank you. Um, Once again, I welcome you all for this session. This session is handled by Dr. Purani Marimuttu ma'am. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our resource person, Dr. Purani Marimuttu, data scientist, SPI Global. She is having a research experience of 5 years in data science. Her co-works in data science generate a high-end healthcare systems. Moreover, her works are all implemented in real time with real collected data. Her project under DST NRDMS grant titled Intelligent Remote Health Monitoring System in Sensor Cloud Environment got Best Innovation Award at Open Innovation Accelerator on Building Smart Villages 2017, organized by University of California, Berkeley and Andhra Pradesh government. She has participated in various national and international workshops and published her papers in national and international journals and conferences. She is a life member of ISTE. Her area of interest are data analytics and interpretation, natural language processing, machine learning, soft computing, and networking. Thank you, one and all. Over to ma'am.
Ma'am, kindly unmute, ma'am. We are not able to hear you.
Now it's okay. Now you are all audible.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's
Yes,
audible,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I'm here. I think ma'am has given a brief introduction about me. Thank you, ma'am. Myself, Purani, and today I'm going to talk about the machine learning in healthcare. I don't want to be this to be a just a single person communication. I want to be an interactive session. So that both sides will be benefited. I could also learn from you a lot, people. And I think all are aware of, about ML. So shall we start the presentation, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, please, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Whether my screen is visible to all?
No, ma'am.
No?
I think it's loading, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm not able to see, ma'am. We are not able to see.
Now?
No, ma'am.
highlight the present screen
I
on
have
the.
selected. I think now.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. It's coming. It's
Yes,
coming.
ma'am. Now we are able to.
Ah.
Now it's getting loaded.
Oh, wait.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Make it a full screen.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Fine.
Okay. So today's topic is machine learning in healthcare. Okay, before going to machine learning, we'll see as a part that is machine learning comes under artificial intelligence. I think on that, what is an artificial intelligence? It's again a machine intelligence. That is, we are going to provide the intelligence to the machines in contrast to the natural intelligence that has been displayed by the humans. Okay. Can anyone say why actually the AI has been evolved from 1963, but now it has been boomed to the high reach? Why is it so? As I said earlier, I want to be the session should be an interactive so that hello.
Yeah. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, is it audible for all of you?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So my question is, artificial intelligence is from 1963 onwards. Actually, when the neural networks has been the first perceptron layer, perceptron coloring has been came down. At that time itself, AI is there, but now only it has been boomed like anything. Why is it so?
Because high performance computing improved in these days.
Yeah, high performance computing, but I think that has been boomed from for the past 20 years, no? But yeah, have you all noticed that for these 20 that is this 5 to 10 years as a big boom? It's a good answer. Another one? Is there anything else? I think you all are from EC department, or else it's from other department also. Okay, whoever may be that, we have to say thanks to the electronics people because now the data has been digitized. So for AI, the data should be digital. Before 1990s or 2000, most of the data are in written format only. Okay, but now it's not. Even India is a digital India, so the data are all being converted into digital, not in an analog or it's not in a file system. That's it. So that digitization of data has boomed the AI to a high level. So because we all what's actually in AI we are doing, we are just analyzing the data. We are concluding with any patterns, or we are discovering any knowledge which will be useful for our decision making, which will be used for conclude any good conclusions, or which will be imitate our human mankind. So how these could be done? When data is available, we can do it. When there is no data, we can't do all these things. So first and foremost thing for an AI is data, that too in digital format. So the VLSI people has made a tremendous work in the digitization of data. Okay, so we can see that in 1850s also how the hello. Shall I proceed? Hello.
Yes, ma'am. You can proceed, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah.
Questioning, you can have it on the end because if many gets unmuted, then it will be a
Okay,
chaos.
okay. Let me have the question at the end itself. Okay.
Yeah, questioning, we can have it at the end, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay,
So
we can continue.
yeah, I'll continue. So as you have seen in the PPT, you 10 itself, we have that steam engine, and from 1993 to 2007, we have the early robotic systems where neural networks are there. In robotics itself, we are having the neural networks, but that too, we don't have that machine learning algorithms have not been ported into as much like nowadays, because they are all not there is not high level of digital data at that time. That's it. And 1995 to 2005, again, the information system, there comes the digital data. The first digital data has been evolved from 1995 to 2000 after that. And from there, 2015, again, it's going on. It's the evolution of AI. And what are all the building blocks of AI? That's the machine learning, big data, and IoT. These are all the main components. So if you want to do any innovative work on an AI, we'll go for ML. I will prefer, we need a big data, and we need the from where we will get the data from the things. That is, those things are all connected. That is the Internet of Things. So and from the collected data, we will be performing the algorithms so that we could do any manipulations or any processing, which will result in a AI product. And the benefits of AI: influencing sales. It has been increased the organization sales to a lot, and boosting operations. 78% of organization implementing AI has been increased. Efficiency by 10%. And the engaging the customers. We can engage the customers easily. You all know that nowadays, in all sorts of business, they are using AI. For example, from the Amazon, from Flipkart, whatever you are buying, whatever you are going to the OLX itself, if you want to sell a product, then the related products are all coming. That is a sentimental analysis, whatever behavioral analysis came into the focus. So generating insights. 79% of organizations implementing AI generate new insights, and the AI has given a better insights of the data. So these are all some of the benefits of data. And what are all the challenges? Is it easy to adapt AI? No, it's not that much easy to adapt AI, but it can be done if we have the following, if we sort out some of the challenges. So what are all the challenges? The lack of enabling. We don't have a quite good data ecosystem, because now only the data has been evolved into digitized form, and those data are also, as we all know, that data are not that much clear, that is, they are all dirty data only. That is, some data are structured, some data may be semi-structured, some data are unstructured. So, and we'll be having missing data, we'll be having null data, and we have to sort out all those data into a clean format so that we could visualize some patterns into that, or else we could gain some information from those data. And the next comes your low intensity of AI research. Now only the AI research are all booming up in all over the world. So that's it. Inadequate availability of your expertise and technology research. So people are now started to learn. It's not like what's a basic electronics or else. That is, we have an expertise people in this domain. We are actually now only we are all getting into this area. Next is high resource cost and low awareness of adapting AI in business process. And again, the resource cost is also somewhat high only. And unclear, again, the other issues comes under AI is privacy security, because all it deals with digital data. No one will ready to give their data, because how long they'll not trust people. No, how this could my data will be. There is no any security layer for AI. Till now, there is no protocol, has not been a standard protocol has not been defined. We are using already defined standard protocols for security, but the security is one again a lagging area in the AI, but it's again developing research oriented developing area only. If anybody wants to do research in AI, you can also opt for the security privacy area, because it's again lagging area only. Unattractive intellectual property right? Again, here there is no unclear intellectual property, but nowadays it has been sorted out these problems. And regarding, it's just it's a glimpse of AI what I have given you till now, and now we'll shift to healthcare. So you all know that what is in healthcare? It's the maintenance or improvement of health. We are the prevention. We are going to diagnose or treatment or recovery, whatever the disease. That is your healthcare. And the death rate nowadays is The first comes the cardiovascular disease, that is a heart related problem, either heart stroke or heart disease, heart attack, whatever may be that. That comes under cardiovascular disease, which plays a primary role in your death rate of the world, which there is 25.4%, and others are asthma, other respiration diseases. I think from this COPD itself, you can identify the other respiration diseases. We also now facing the COVID problem. Since already we are, that is the respiration diseases highly increasing the death rate. Again, the COVID also now increases the death rate. And the third is the diarrheal disease, perineal disease. Also, these are all the death rate for the in the world today. Now, how this AI can help the healthcare? This is a question. So we could access the vast health data from where the potential life-saving information can be retrieved. So it can detect and analyze the large and small prints from the data, and even more good predictions could be done through machine learning programs or its machine learning algorithms. The treatment methods and their outcomes are well improved, and survival rates could, which in turn increase the survival rates, and the speed of the care gathered across the millions of people with different geographical locations can be implemented at the same time with less time. Provides interconnected health conditions. So these are all some of the benefits why we have to go for AI in healthcare. And the 70% of healthcare executives report more investment in embedded artificial intelligence solution, and 69% they are insisting on machine learning concepts. And these are all the technologies which could improve the healthcare. There is a big data, artificial intelligence, IoT. Already I've told you that artificial intelligence is going because of big data and IoT. So they are all interrelated, AR, VR, robotics. And the growth trend of the health sector is, as you have seen, from 1990 to 2020, how the growth has been in $1 billion. It has been more industries are focusing on healthcare AI products. For example, you can have many remote healthcare monitoring systems nowadays. We are having many sensors, biosensors that can automatically detect whatever the vital parameters. So these are all because of the link that has been developed between AI and healthcare. Now we'll go for the machine learning. So you all know that machine learning is again that comes under AI. So that's again an important part of AI. It's a field of computer science that gives the computer systems the ability to learn. That is, it will improve the performance of a specific task with the data without being explicitly programmed. So we don't want to program. In olden days, what we'll do, we'll program the program for anything. That is, we want a program to execute for an addition, whatever maybe that. If we want to perform a task, we'll go for a programming structure. But nowadays, we'll give the data, the machine will learn, and the machine will give the algorithm. That's the concept of machine learning. See how better than the traditional programming. In traditional programming, the data and algorithm will be given to the machine. We will get the output. Here, the data and the output will be given. The machine will give the algorithm. That is, we are trying to make the machine to learn whatever the changes the data is going to have. You just learn it. You produce the output in according to the input data. That's a concept. So that what the evolving systems could be easily handled. So the machine learning makes things easy to interpret with the environment, real-time environment. In earlier days, the traditional programming could not meet up with the evolving products. It is a standalone, but the machine learning is a changeable one. So the machine learning, under machine learning, we have the supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning. And you all know that what is supervised learning? Supervised learning is there where you will be given with input, output, the class labels have been given, and the machine will learn how with these data, both the input and output data, it will again learn how to interpret with the data, and it will produce the needed decisions could be taken. So again, from the supervised learning, we have the regression problems, classification problem. So in regression, that is, you will be having linear regression, and in the classification, you will be having the logistic regression and SVM. So classification, we have a define, that is, these are all the class labels. You just identify these class labels when the data comes in. That's a classification problem. But in regression problem, we'll be showing that the output depends on X, how much it has been correlated with the input data. If it is correlating high, then the output will be this. If it is not correlating with input, then it is not like that. So that the relational depends upon the relation between the input and the output. The regression problems are handled. In classification problem, we don't go that much into the relation between the data. This is they'll fix the threshold. If this comes, this. If one comes means, then you put mark it as that. Classification problem, we have the good algorithm. There is a SVM algorithm, support vector machines, where we can have the bilinear classification, and for which could handle both linear data and non-linear data. And we can have the kernel tricks. The advantages in your SVMs are, again, it can be it can be implemented for a high dimensional data, so that your in SVM and the kernel tricks, and moreover the SVM is a good outlier detection. All these things, I think you people are more familiar. And again, in the unsupervised learning, we'll go for the clustering problems or come, and the dimensional reduction algorithms are all. And in clustering problem, we have the k-means, fuzzy c-means, density-based k-means, agglomerative k-means, whatever. There are more number of flavors in the k-means itself, knn, all these things, grouping of data algorithms are there. And in the dimension reduction, we will be having the PCA, all those dimensionality reduction algorithms. Why we usually the unsupervised learning algorithms will be preferred in high dimensional data, and where the data is unknown, that is the raw data. If we don't know about the data, then we'll definitely go for unsupervised learning, so that the model will learn the patterns, or else it will group the data, and we will know, okay, these are all the clusters formed out of this data, and now we can have some knowledge of the data. After that, we can go for the supervised learning in the same model itself. So usually the unsupervised learning will be used in the unclear environment. When an environment is having a high dimensional data, then we will go for unsupervised learning. Then again, reinforcement learning, when we have the, that is again the IQ level of the machine learning has been increased by the reinforcement learning, where the goal has been reached by means of your that is you will be having the reward points whenever your algorithm has reached a good decision. Then a reward point has been given, so that the algorithm will understand, okay, good, I'm going in the right path, so I have to continue in the same path. Like with the reinforcement learning, these are all some of the basic concepts. I am just discussing about the basic concepts of the machine learning, so that you can understand where the main feature in implementing any machine learning model for an AI product depends upon to choose the best algorithm for the data. That's the main. That is whatever here the main points are the data and which algorithm you are choosing for your data. That will again going to produce a good accuracy rate of your model, or else it is going to predict your good class. It is going to produce a good classifier. So your data wrapping, your data cleansing, your selection of algorithm, all plays a vital role in your whatever model we are defining. So why machine learning? So the opportunities of machine learning are advanced customization. You can always change your data as well as your algorithm. There is no restriction in that. So advanced customization, intelligent data analysis, sensory data analysis can be done easily. Optical character recognition, voice recognition, image recognition. So these are all vast opportunities of machine learning. So this is a methodology how the model has been, the flow chart, machine learning. You'll be having the training data set, supervised, unsupervised. You will extract the features, and from the features, the machine will develop the machine learning algorithm. They'll group the objects. Predictive model has been defined. So your annotated data, what's actual data, has been again given here for the further analysis. Along if in the testing environment, if a new data has been arrived with this annotated data and the new data, the algorithm will now again, after a few years or few months, it will again produce a good results than the previous. Machine learning in healthcare, disease identification and diagnosis, drug discovery and manufacturing, medical imaging, disease prediction, smart health records, personalized medicine and treatment. These are all some of the ML applications in healthcare. So this is a healthcare model building. So you'll be having the health records, like the same featureization. Whatever the data is only going to differ depending upon the data. Again, the feature has been selected, all the model evaluation has been done, and if we what type of diagnosis we have to go, that is whether we are going for a prediction model or else we are going for an we are going to just define the false alarm rate, we are going to just define an alert. That depends upon the person who is actually using the model, the person who is developing the model. The usage of ML in healthcare, the support, as I said, the support vector machine has been widely used in ML because of its that is, it supports both linear data and non-linear data. The non-linear data can be easily converted to linear data by means of kernel functions. So as you know that health data is mostly non-linear and it has a high uncertainty. These uncertainties and non-linear features can be easily handled by support vector machines. So in the worldwide, SVM has been widely used. It has produced a good results in diagnosing disease. After that, neural networks comes a second place because neural networks, again, it is a good learner, all you people know. So as a good learner, it has achieved a good accuracy. That's it. It has been used widely. And logistic regression, discriminant analysis, random forest and all, it depends upon the application, whether you are using in a vital signs and vital sign data or else in a cancer data. That depends upon the data, in which particular data you are going to use the algorithm. Linear regression, naive-Bayes. Again, naive-Bayes is widely used in many heart disease prediction. Since the naive-Bayes data, naive-Bayes is a good predictor. We have, if the predictors are more, again we'll have the accuracy is more in NB, naive-Bayesian. And again, Bayesian belief has also been highly used in diagnosing diseases like cancer, Alzheimer, because as Bayesian belief involves a correlation that exists between the variables, that is whatever health parameter you are taken into account, those correlations could be handled effectively by means of Bayesian belief. You all know that the local joint distribution and the joint probabilities, that is marginal dependencies, can be effectively handled by Bayesian belief networks. So naive-Bayes and Bayesian beliefs are the two most popular probabilistic approach that has been widely used in the prediction diagnosis of diseases. And again, nearest neighbor, decision tree, all these that is decision nearest neighbor has been used in that is again, it's an unsupervised ML algorithm, which has been used in the unknown environment. If you have not got an idea about the data, then we'll go for the nearest neighbor, or else if you want to cluster your data, then in image segmentation of in the medical field, you are going the nearest neighbor have been widely used. And the decision tree is also being used where you have the interrelationship between the variables exist. And hidden Markov model where your state transition has been occurred. For example, you can have that in activity recognition or behavioral analysis of the old persons, elder persons. In those areas, HMM has been widely used. So these are all the usage of ML in healthcare. So benefits of ML in healthcare. It improves patient care by 38%, and these are all some of the facts that has been reported in your in the worldwide. Improve patient healthcare outcomes by 32%, increase remote diagnosis by 28%, remove patient connectivity by 32%, improve disease surveillance by 31%, estimated reduction of cost of care has been reduced by 48%. So these are all some of the main benefits of ML in healthcare. Again, ML innovations in healthcare. So have you? I think the autism children, we all know that they face problems in distinguishing the facial expressions. I think the Dell technology foot tall, visually expressive robot that teaches the autistic kids, that is the age between 5 to 17, how to identify the signs of the emotions. This robotic reflections have been extensively used in the US states nowadays, actually. And the connecting amyotrophic lateral sclerosis patients, that is, you all know that the brain computer interface has been enabled more people who have lost the ability to speak or move to communicate with them. For them, the patients will type with their eyes onto the monitor, which vocalizes their thoughts through computerized decoding. They use the emails, they use this for reading books, stay connected to the world. Then AFib detector, that is the cardiac arrhythmias, particularly that is heart attacks or strokes, that could be identified by means of this AFib detect, which is again a AI software. It identifies the arrhythmias from an ECG. Then the identification is actually proved that it is more than a human expert. Magnetic response imaging and computerized that is CT scans provide detailed non-invasive views of the inner body. These views can be again extensively explored by means of the machine learning algorithms, enabling virtual biopsies of tumors. And these are all some of the proofs of the results. Number of Americans of all ages with long QT syndrome, that is a heart disorder, can be easily diagnosed by means of the heart monitor. And again, in the hospital environment, reduction in patient wait time has been implementing ML in the hospital management. And the percentage prediction accuracy increases overall by using AI, that is in the ML approaches. The percentage of accuracy has been increased by 95.5%. In all sectors, not only in cancer and all, in all sectors of medical field, whether it is a heart disease or Alzheimer or Parkinson's, whatever may be, that accuracy rate has been predictably increased by means of ML. ML in health insurance. So these are all the some of more the areas where we can have ML. So then ML in health insurance. Health insurance, again, the health insurance software to streamline the automate data processing workflows. It is used to find the frauds and approve claims regarding after the data has been sought of, that is whether the person is a fraud or a true person, and approve claims for loyal customers and offer fast turnaround on approval for the care, which improves the customer service. And the four main ML applications, that transforms the insurance industry now is fraud detection and credit analysis, customer profiling and segmentation, product and policy design, underwriting and claims assessments. These are all the main 4 areas that healthcare industry has been now focusing in insurance side. ML in pharma industry. So ML in pharma refers to the use of automated algorithms to perform tasks which traditionally run human intelligence. That is, the biotech industry has defined with new drugs. It has ML can easily diagnose the disease. How it will identify the drug targets, find good molecules from the data libraries that is available, then suggest chemical modification and identify the candidates for repurposing. So these are all the how ML could be effectively used in pharma industries for producing a good medicine. Okay. Then expected technologies that dominates a pharma that has been shared by global data as per for 2019 to 2021 is artificial intelligence plays a main role. That is, it is going to dominate for 39%, and again comes a big data and all other comes next on stream. ML in healthcare supply chain. Again, healthcare supply chain logistics is a series of process or workforces involved different teams and movement of medicines from the surgical equipment to other products also from the health professional to do for the health professionals to do their job. Actually, it ensures the proper link revenue cycles. All these things are interrelated by means of the supply chains, and again this plays a vital role in healthcare industry. And as we have seen, where and all ML can be explored so that the healthcare industry could be evolved with more flavors we have seen till now. And now we are going to see about the big data. So the big data is a term used to refer the data set that are too large or complex. It is again unstructured, unclear data. We will go for big data. And why big data? Big data will give the timely results, better analytics, vast amount of data is there. We have a clear insight. When we view with a large number of data, then we will be having a good idea. We'll have the prediction rate will increase, and decision making is also will be fine. So what are all the challenges? Storing and analyzing this large, rapidly growing, diverse data is again a very challenging issue. And based on these rapidly growing data, we have to make a decision we should take a precise decision. That is again a challenging issue. It includes what are all it includes capturing data storage, analysis, search, sharing, transfer, visualization, querying, updating, information privacy, and data source. Data growth, as we have seen the big data, now it actually the earlier stage 2000 and all, we don't have this much of data. As I said in the earlier itself, there is no digital data, hence our data itself worldwide is very less. But now after digitization, all the data has been stored in our systems. The data continues to grow sharply. That is from, you can see from 2012 to 2020, it has been increased like anything. From 2000 and 2012, it is only 20 zettabytes in the digital universe. But in 2014, 31% of enterprise managing more than 1 petabyte. Around 2, that is this year prediction is it is 40 zettabytes. I think it has already crossed 25. IDC predicts there will be 163 zettabytes of data. Health data. So the big data, it's again it will be having enterprise data, business data, health data, education department data. So any data that relates to the health conditions, reproductive outcomes, the causes of death, and quality of life is termed to be your health data. Again, health data is a big data only. So health data growth, as we all know that it again 45% of increases annually. 2013, the health data was around 153 exabytes only. By but around 2020, that is this year, it has been improved to 2314 exabytes. So these are all the primary health data challenges. That is, data is not continuous; it's a fragmented data, and the data is not a standard data. It is ever-changing data, and then privacy, security regulations, and the patient expectations. These are all primary challenges in your health data. And big data in healthcare, how this big data is in healthcare has been used. Personalized medicine and perspective analytics can be done using this big data analytics, clinical risk intervention and predictive analytics, and waste and care variability reduction, automated external and internal reporting of patient data, standardized medical terms could be done, and patient registries can be done effectively, fragmented point solutions. These are, have you seen the figure? You can have the understood consumer and patients growth, and optimizes the growth, implements preventive care strategies, analysis trends can be done. From the trends, we can set our healthcare data field a more objective field. And if big data comes, then automatically we have to fed into the data analysis part. So as you all know, the data analysis is a process of inspecting, cleansing, transforming, and modeling data with the goal of discovering useful information, the informing conclusion, supporting decision making. So data analysis in healthcare, in imaging field, in inpatient health monitoring, laboratory results, patient-generated health data, examination, in all sorts of healthcare field, we are using data analysis. And we'll be having the public data, genomic data, electronic health records, and behavioral data. All these data are clubbed together, which forms a big data analytics. And we are searching for the evidence or insights, and then we have improved the outcomes through smarter decisions using ML, which also reduces the low cost. So relationship of data, information, and intelligence. We have the collection of data. From the data, we are actually processing, and there itself we will be ignoring the unwanted data. And from the data, we will be having the analysis and production part, where the information has been passed, and from the information, the intelligent decision has been taken. And these are all some of the data analysis types. That is information. From the information, we are going to take an optimized results. So from information to optimization. So that's a descriptive analysis, a stage-by-stage analysis, where first we will go for the descriptive analysis, what happened, diagnostic analysis, why did it happen, and then predictive analysis, what will happen. So if we answer these questions itself, we could effectively come with a good ML algorithm for the particular health data. So these are all the basic steps while we are following to, these are all the steps that we should follow when we are going to design a model for a health data, ML based model. Predictive analytics, prescriptive on how we can make it happen. Then big data analytics and decision, the relation that exists between the big data and data analysis. So when it is not done with any analysis, the big data is a comes of data. When we do the analytics, it will form some structure. And if we take a decision, then automatically it will come into a structured format. Data analytics. So what are all the data analytics platform nowadays, so that we can explore our data and we'll do some analytics part. So I think we have the Cloudera, Pivotal, SAP, Microsoft, Oracle, then RapidMiner, Impact, Veka, and your NIME software, SQL Server. These are all basic. Excel itself a good analytics platform only. So that these analytics tools can help deliver valuable information and bring that information to life. It provides users with greater insights into the customers, business, and industries. Data analytics in 5 steps. So these are all the steps in your data analysis. Ask the right, that is, first you have to define the data. Ask the right questions. Define the target of your data analysis. Why I have to do this work? what's the input, what's the output, how what type of algorithm I have to choose for this kind of data. So these are all some of the basic definitions. You have to answer these questions and then measure, collect valid data, improve your data quality if necessary. If collect the data, if the quality is not that much enough, then you just improve the quality of data. That is the data wrapping, and then analyze your data, facilitate better process understanding and develop solutions. So that is the best process understanding is very important area for your if you want a good prediction accuracy rate, then you have to the third step, the analyzation is very important. And then improve your data, implement your solution, optimize your process efficiency. That is how this could be done more effectively. How it's not I don't want to get a local minima or local optimal solutions. I need a global optimal solutions. Then I have to go for a high optimal algorithms, such as I could hybrid my I could combine many algorithms so that a hybrid model could be developed. For example, ML neural networks can be combined with the GA for a good optimal solutions, or else SVM, as we all know that SVM and all neural networks are all local minimum, local minimum. It will generate only local minimum or local maxima. But if we combine this SVM or a neural network or whatever k-means with a GA, it again produces a good results, which results in global optimal solutions. Not only GA, we are having many evolutionary algorithms such as particle swarm optimization, then your ant colony optimization. Now many more algorithms have been emerged. When these evolutionary algorithms actually produce the will generate always generate a good optimal solutions that could be combined with the ML algorithm, so that learning through optimized environment will always generate a good results. Then control, access the benefits of your solutions, create a framework conditions for long-term use. What are all the conditions you have to sort out? Benefits of data analysis, ability to make faster, more informed business decisions that is backed up by facts, deeper understanding of customer requirements, which in turn build better business relations. Here, the business relationship actually means for the healthcare industries, depends upon the area where we are using. This is a predictive analysis model, the patient data, whether it is a structured or unstructured, the high risk model engine, it has been given to the machine learning part, and the patient risk scores through the population and how the admissions are going. The trend line has been set. This is a general predictive analysis model. So again, for health data, as part of the health data, we are the data is mainly acquired from the sensors. So sensors is again termed to be the things. So it's all interconnected internet-based things. So that is the IoT. So big data with IoT, we are getting the data from the sensors only. So here IoT also plays a vital role in healthcare industries. Big data and IoT work in conjunctions. Data extracted from IoT devices provides a mapping of device interconnectivity. Such mappings have been used by the medical industry, media industry, companies and governments to more accurately target their audience and increase media efficiency. So all we know that the Internet of Things is again, it's a network of physical devices, vehicles, or any other items, embedded items that actually contains the sensors, actuators, and network connectivity, which enable these objects to collect and exchange data. Sensor role in IoT. So these are all some of the healthcare devices, and other than these, lot more devices have been evolving today. IoT in healthcare, at the remote monitoring to smart sensors and medical device integrations. It has a potential not only keep patients safe by using these sort of medical healthcare devices, it also improves how physicians deliver care as well. But healthcare IoT is not without its ups, but it has its own obstacles. Pros and cons are always there. This is the healthcare information, how the health data has been generated. how it has been shared, and how the collaborative analysis has been done, and to form a good health, ML-based healthcare environment, or else AI-based healthcare environment. So AI, big data, IoT, cloud, these are all main four structures that has been focused by healthcare industries to improve its prediction accuracy. So the improve access, online appointment, where all the technology has been included, that is online appointment booking, online remote consultation, care delivery, care management, report and health data access, distribution, home health services, delivery of medicines, diagnostic services, health management, wellness apps and tools, disease management, personal health devices. So these are all some of the area where healthcare industries are highly focused AI, big data and IoT, and along with the cloud environment. ML in remote healthcare. Again, ML has been extensively used in remote healthcare field. That is, the patient data has been collected from the wearable sensor devices. From there, it has been given to the cloud server or any server in the hospitals, and there the algorithms, the ML algorithms have been already imported, from which the diagnosis has been done, and the person could be stated as whether he is normal or abnormal. That could be done easily through ML. And nowadays, we are in the personalized healthcare era. That is, it is in older days, the doctors will give this common medicines, but nowadays we are going for a more personalized environment. So personalized healthcare or personalized medicine, precision medicine, or terms of therapeutic is a medical model that separates people into different groups with medical decisions, practices, interventions, and products being tailored to the individual patients based upon their predicted response or risk of disease. So providing healthcare optimized for individual patients through personalized medicine is conventionally we are providing the same treatment, same drug to the three persons who is having the same symptoms. But today we are actually focusing on individual. Individual care has been taken for each person, and the medicine has been given according to his own vital signs. The drug level has been the same drug level, but the drug is same, but the level of the drug has been different. That's again customized. That's a personalized medicine. Pharma and barriers to personalized medicine. So that is, these are all some of the barriers: unstable or non-secure legal and regulatory framework that comes, and 92%, and lack of access to relevant data, 58%. We don't have that much of personalized data actually as far of now in the worldwide. Then limited ability to integrate data sources, and again the integration of all these data, it's again a barrier. In continuous regulatory oversight in a rapidly changing market environment, limited calculation analytic power, and number of collaborations. Security, again, these are all the some of the security challenges in the health data: insider misuse or unintentional actions, and in the supply chains. So our future healthcare is what that is a personalized healthcare, again in a remote monitoring system. So personalized remote health monitoring systems. That too, we all know that now it has been we are in the era of IoE, that is Internet of Everything, where proactive actions are taken in the all the industries. Again, in the healthcare industries, we can use IoE so that we could have a proactive healthcare environment. And this is about the future healthcare. And again, thank you. Any questions? So I think we'll have some discussions.
Ma'am, can you hear me? Okay.
Ma'am, I think she is left, ma'am. She'll be joining shortly, ma'am.
Ask her to join so that the questions can be cleared.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I've asked her, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, she's here, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ma'am, one question by the participant is, machine learning is better or deep learning is better in terms of medical research? Shakila,
Ma'am,
you can tell her.
kindly unmute, ma'am. We are not able to hear you.
Now it's audible for you all?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am.
It depends upon, you have asked me that is which type of, that is whether it's a machine learning or deep learning for medical research. No, that's a question, no?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Actually, it depends upon the data. That is, if you are processing on a image data, for example, if you are going to diagnose a cancer, then there you are going to take the images of the cancer tumors, then your data is so large. In those kind of environments, you can go for deep learning, so that the learning will be very high, and you will be having a accurate prediction rate. But if you want to, for example, if you just want to monitor the vital signs of human health, or else if you want to just take the behavioral analysis, there the data is not that much, and it also depends upon the relation that exists between the data, and those things only define which is type of algorithms you have to choose whether deep learning or machine learning. Usually, the deep learning algorithms have been chosen by, if your data is so vast, it's fully unstructured, and you don't know about the data, you have a rough idea about the data, then you can definitely go for a deep learning. But we don't know how far that deep learning algorithm is going to produce good results. So first we have to analyze the data. Depending upon the data only, that could be that is finalized, machine learning or deep learning.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Next question is, where we get the data set related to drug discovery? Like now we have many type of drug discovery hackathons.
Ah.
So for that, where we'll get the data set? Which will be the authenticated data set?
You can have many repositories. No, nowadays many repositories are available. Data Hub, UCI, what many requests, or else you can also request pharmaceutical companies also. If you are doing any research, or else any kind of hackathon, you can always ask them. They will give with some prior permissions.
Like which pharmaceutical company? Because they'll not share their data. So how will get the data from them?
Yeah, actually, definitely they'll not share the actual original data, but they can share their, they'll be, for their analyzation, they'll be having those synthetic data. No, those data can be shared. Some companies, I don't know which company, but if you want, I can just search and I can tell you. That's it.
Okay, okay, ma'am. What in your experience is the best package or tool for machine learning applications in healthcare?
Again, this if we want that, each and every tool is different. That is, if you have worked in Vika, for just an data exploration part, you can go for Vika. Or else, if you want to find the relationship, how far the data has been iterated, that is correlation that exists between those data's attributes could be effectively seen in NIME software. And like that, so you have to explore the data. If you want to explore a very big data set, then you can healthcare data set, then you can go for Tableau. Likewise, yeah, or else if you want to just if you want to program, if you want to code and see how the clusters are being formed, then you can go for just enough a Python environment, PyCharm or whatever the environment. You could just code with Python. You will have a good exploration.
What are the security challenges, ma'am?
Security, we actually in health data, whatever data nowadays digital data, that too in health data, the security is very much important. All the that is, no one wants their data to be in a common platform. So we should ensure a good security environment while developing our model. And many hardest algorithms could be imported into your model so that the data could be secured, or else in your sensor side you can hybrid your secure layer, like that. You we have to search for the research papers that concentrated on the security analysis of health data.
Okay, ma'am. Like what type of algorithm can we use for reinforced learning?
What kind of algorithm? Yeah, reinforcement learning, again game theory. That is, you can go for any what just it's an again it's based of it's again a semi supervised or whatever. It's a game that is a reward point algorithm only. No, is the same algorithm can be implemented. There are many flavors.
Okay. SVM can be used.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, any more questions from the participants? Any more questions from the participants? Okay, Munira.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for your thought-provoking session. It was
Thank you,
highly
ma'am.
informative.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, participants. Tomorrow, the session will start at 9:30 a.m. Do join the session and happy learning. Thank you, one and all.